What's the real thing that we're dealing with? Because when we say, hey, we want this person to be on camera or to be involved in content, and the answer is they don't have time. Well, it's funny you say that because we haven't mentioned how much time it's going to take yet. So I think one of the most interesting objections that I hear anyway, when we're working with, especially a new client, their marketing team, their content director, maybe even their executive team is, oh, so-and-so, they would be on camera. They would create content. They would show up for the shoot. They would X, Y, and Z, but, they just don't have the time.
You've heard that once or twice, huh?
I hear it all the time. And it's almost expected. It's like we're going to start working with somebody new, and you're working with them. And one of our core pieces that we need to accomplish is who is the content team? Who is going to be on camera? What is their message? What is our routine to collect that message, right? And the first option that we need to fill the blank of is who is on the content team? Oh, well, the CEO, he's great. He's so smart. He has this, great perspective and, a really commanding presence. But
you'll never hear from him.
Oh, he doesn't have the time to do content. Which is a really odd perspective. And it's not just the CEO, it's the CEO, it's the sales leader, it's the director of engineering. It's usually the most valuable people that you would want to be on camera. And sure, are those people busy? Yeah, I would hope so. If the CEO is not busy, I think you got some big problems. If your director of engineering or director of sales is not busy, big problems. But is it the case that we actually don't have the time to do content? Or is it the case that we're afraid to ask for the time to do content? Or is it the case that we don't think that they want to be involved in content because they don't think it's important? What's the real thing that we're dealing with? Because when we say, hey, we want this person to be on camera or to be involved in content, and the answer is they don't have time, well, it's funny you say that because we haven't mentioned how much time it's going to take yet. So how would you have come to that conclusion?
Do you think that, and I know our process is a little bit unique, but do you think that they have either a preconceived notion or bad experiences and didn't see the results just from the conversations you've had? Do you think that it's a limiting belief, or is it really that they don't have the time?
I think it really depends on the team. I think in some cases, the marketing team is so far removed from especially the C-suite that they're almost intimidated to even ask them to be involved, or they've been told in other initiatives potentially that, they're not going to be involved in that, especially if you're talking about a CEO. I mean, the CEO's job is, or at least part of their job is, to represent the company in public to investors, to customers, to the world. What better way could you do that besides get on camera talking about your company, your perspective, your value, your ideas, your views, your fill in the blank? That kind of is part of the job to me, it seems. So to have a marketing team that's won't even ask that, I think is problematic. But if truly they've asked before and they've been told no, or they've been conditioned where they can't ask, that's a different problem altogether. But the CEO, or any executive for that matter, should not be too busy to be part of the go-to-market motion that's going to include packaging up different messaging and getting it in front of your target audience. If they're too busy for that, you got big problems. Now, that brings us to, what is the time commitment that we're even talking about? If I'm the CEO and you walk into my room and you say, hey, bro, we're going to do a daily podcast and we need an hour of your time every single day, I'm probably going to tell you no. So you come in and you say, hey, we're going to do one every day. And I'm going to say that's crazy. I don't have time for that. So if you have an unreasonable ask, they're going to tell you no. So the core piece is A, how do we get them involved? And then how do we create a scenario that they can say yes to? If the ask is every day, I can tell you right now, the answer is no. And it doesn't matter if it's the CEO or the janitor. The janitor does not have time to meet with you every single day and work on content with you. It turns out that's the marketing team's job every single day to work on content. Anybody outside the marketing team does not have time, probably, to do content every single day. So, and this will vary by team, first, we establish that they will at least be involved in content as a representative of the company. And then we figure out how much can they be involved. If it's not daily, is it weekly? Is it a weekly podcast we're going to do? Some of the I would assume, busiest CEOs I know will do a weekly podcast. Are they really doing it weekly? Who knows? But it comes out weekly, which brings us to our next point. Just because a production schedule is weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, that doesn't mean that that's how the content was created. I mean, if the CEO says, you know what, I've got a few hours a month or a half day per quarter, you can still make that work if you do the proper planning up front. So I think the big scenario for a marketing team is A, don't rule it out, get their approval, figure out what makes sense from a messaging standpoint, figure out a production schedule that they can actually do once per day, once per week, once per month, once per quarter. What can we realistically do? And it might change over time, and that's fine. But really, what it comes down to is how can you organize the message that needs to be created with their availability and their time to meet whatever your production schedule is going to be. Because one of the worst things you can do is say, hey, we're going to do whatever it is. It's a podcast, and we're going to do it once per week. And then it's once per week for a month, and then maybe it's once every other week, and then maybe it's once per month, and then it's every couple months. And then your podcast is dead. You don't want that. So what can they agree as a minimum? And if they come out of the gate and do a little bit more, perfect. If they just hit that minimum requirement, no harm, no foul. But almost any executive that's going to take their role seriously of being a representative of the company is going to be able to agree to some level of content production. And on the marketing team or the content team side of things, you have to take the availability that they give you and make the most of it. So from my perspective, it isn't that they don't have time. It's that you haven't given them, you either haven't told them what they're doing, you haven't given them a reasonable ask of time, or given them a way to make it work within their schedule and their other responsibilities.
That's a great point. We just actually worked with a client last week that didn't have the time to do it on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. So we sat down with them and said that this will be our quarterly production, and it allowed us to be able to kind of batch produce different episodes in one sitting, so we were able to maximize their time. And I think that too many people in the C-suite expect that it is going to be a headache and a burden and just very cumbersome, and it's going to take up half their day every week, and it's just unrealistic. So it's easier to just say no, to your point, rather than giving them a structure, giving them a way to do it efficiently that still accomplishes the goal.
And when you're able to plan it like that, when you're able to batch whatever the episodes are together and just say, hey, look, we're going to take a couple hours of your time and we're going to knock it out. We're going to get you in, we're going to get you out. In that particular instance, I mean, they're doing it quarterly, so that's probably the maximum amount of batching. But I mean, you're dealing with an executive who is very busy. He's literally not in town, sometimes not even in the country most of the time. So, in that case, we have to be very flexible. And you know what? When he comes in, he understands what he's doing. He knows the episodes that he has to talk about. He's already thought about it. He's literally brought changes of clothes so that we can say, hey, this happened on multiple days, and this isn't we just sat down and pumped through it. It's more of a, hey, let's do one, and then let's reset, change our clothes, different day, different topic, and go. And we go through that. I think we did 6.
And the cool thing about it is as the day progressed, you could see him getting more comfortable and more into a groove and being able to communicate clearer and have these cohesive thoughts. And it was just really interesting that the more kind of even practice he got in a single day, the better the content got throughout the day. And it was really remarkable versus just jumping in and doing, 30 minutes here and then leaving. He was able to create in bulk at scale a way for his team to have the content that they need for the next quarter.
And I think a different point about that is when you're doing it like that, when you're setting aside time, whether it's on a quarterly basis or monthly or whatever it is, and you're kind of batching the production together, he and others show up, and that's what they're doing during that half of the day. They're not running out to a meeting or having to take that phone call or doing that other thing, because they've literally set this time aside and it's been dedicated to this effort and not every other job, because they know, look, I'm only doing this once per quarter. I'm going to give my 100% here. And we've talked about this before, but also when you're getting someone at that level on camera, they're going to take it seriously because they know the audience is going to see this, their employees are going to see this, their potentially investors are going to see this. They have to be on their game. So they've put in the work to prep for it. They've set aside the time and they're dedicated to that being successful.
But it all starts at the beginning where you set the expectations and you make it manageable for them.
Absolutely. So, at the end of the day, it's not that they don't have the time. It's that they haven't been properly told what they're doing or why they should be doing it. They haven't had a realistic view of the expectation or been given the option of how it should happen. And it's just seemingly been slightly mismanaged potentially. And I think there's a better way to approach them with the opportunity. There's a better way to explain to them what their options would be to create the content. And I think a executive that understands the value that they could have for the company as a spokesperson is going to be open to hearing about those things. They're going to be open to understanding how they could contribute to the go-to-market motion. They're going to be open to the flexibility that the marketing team could offer as far as how this content could actually be created.
Yeah, and I think that they're going to be much more receptive to the idea if you go in and say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is the goal that we're moving towards. This is why we're doing it. I know you're super busy. So because of that, here's how we're going to batch produce it, or here's what we're going to do to maximize the efficiency of this. They're going to be open-minded because they don't have to figure it out. They don't have to back out of it because of some preconceived notion. They're able to just move forward because you've already thought of that and you've already planned it in a way that is efficient for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And they appreciate that flexibility. They don't have the time to think about those things sometimes. They don't even know what they're going to be doing sometimes next month or sometimes even next week. So to go in and say, hey, look, we're going to try and put all this together at one time, one dedicated time, and also know, just because we've scheduled it on the 15th of the first month of every quarter, that might not happen. Their schedule is going to change. And you, on the marketing side, you have to be open to that. But okay, it didn't happen on the 15th because they had X, Y, or Z come up. Cool. Let's do it on the 17th or the 19th or the 21st or whenever it is that they're actually going to be available. And as long as it's not a frustration and it's just, hey, it didn't happen or it's not going to happen because of a legitimate reason, great. Let's move it to a day that it can happen. And, as long as we all, marketing team, production team, executive team, all stay open to the fluid and flexibility and all stay dedicated to the mission of we want to get our message out there to our audience in the best way possible, I think everybody's going to be the better for it.